the way you are going to use the technology AI is going to decide whether it is going to be good for you or not good for you. It is a tool which some people will use for increasing their efficiency so that they can do much more than what they could do, and it is a tool which some people are going to use to become more lazy because AI is doing everything, so let me not do anything, and those are the ones whose creativity will reduce and so on and so forth. I think it's really important to embrace AI irrespective of who you are, whether you are in the technology field, whether you are in the marketing field, or any field of your life, because it is going to become pervasive, or it's already getting pervasive like electricity.
Hello everyone, I am Anubha for MobileAppDaily. Today in our tech stories, we have Nitendra Rajput. He is an AI expert and Senior Vice President at MasterCard's AI Garage. In his career spanning over 2 decades, he has helped multinational companies with their AI and research labs. And in this episode, we will talk about the past, present, and future of AI, and also how AI is influencing the banking sector and other sectors worldwide. Thank you so much, Nitendra, for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anubha, for having me, and I'm looking forward to discussing good AI stuff with you.
Okay, so let's start with what you do. So, currently, you are leading the MasterCard AI Garage. Give us some insight about your role and what MasterCard AI Garage is all about.
Sure. I mean, as the name suggests, AI Garage is all about AI, and all the people in AI Garage live, breathe, and work AI. And the intent of AI Garage is actually to use the AI technology to build AI-based products for the MasterCard division. And you can think of some of the products being the fact that MasterCard deals with transactions between cardholders and merchants, among many other things, right? So when a transaction happens between a cardholder and a merchant, an AI algorithms comes into play and identifies whether this transaction is fine or is it fraudulent or not, and so on. It tries to identify whether a particular merchant's device, where you swipe your card, is that device hacked, so that maybe if that is hacked, then the card may get card details may get uploaded on the dark web and so on and so forth, right? There are a lot of things that need to be done to predict and make sure that the transactions are legitimate transactions and everything is working fine, and at the back of it are a large number of AI products that help do that, that help keep the system clean. And that's what AI Garage does in terms of making sure we build products, we identify opportunities where AI can be used, we build products, deploy them, and keep the ecosystem clean in some sense.
So, since this conversation will majorly revolve around AI, can you explain the role of AI in the banking sector currently and how is this sector looking at incorporating AI into the whole system? Is it also looking forward to metaverse as well?
Sure, let's talk about the banking part first and then we'll move to metaverse. See, in general, what is happening with the banking sector and others, a lot of them as well, is the fact that banking is moving to digitization. A lot of it has moved, and I don't know whether, when was the last time, Anuba, you had visited a bank?
Even I don't remember.
Exactly, right? So, but we do all the banking operations online and so on. Now, with that, what happens is that with digitization, a customer leaves a footprint. It's like saying that uh, we a lot of times we have a lot of thoughts in our head as to what needs to be done and so on and so forth. But if we write it down, then we get clarity, right? Similarly, now with digitization, what is happening is that everything is logged, in the sense that when I did a particular transaction, which transaction, and how um, my spends have been changing over X number of years, how my income has been changing over X number of years, and so on. And that's the footprint that is now captured easily and it is accessible easily. Now, the banking sector, since it is being digitized over these years, it has a large amount of data about all the customers, the transactions that you do, the payments that you make, the fraudulent patterns that have happened, the things that have gone through people's bank accounts which they shouldn't have gone out, and so on. Banks can now use all of this information to do a lot of analysis about customers. They can intervene a customer saying that, oh, okay, looks like over the last 7 years this particular customer spend pattern has changed. So perhaps earlier it was a college student, now this person has actually moved on and has a job, as I can see from the income, and now it has moved on and has a family. So the intervention that I can provide to this particular customer is going to be very specific, because now I can say that this is the right time to invest in, let's say, health insurance or life insurance and so on. You can also figure out things related to difficult problems such as money laundering activities. So usually money laundering would be like people wanting to put funds from place A to place B. They put it across different sources and layers it and so on. But if you have a digital footprint, then you can also automatically identify that these kind of sources going through these all different kind of paths lead to money laundering activity, so you can quickly flag it and so on. So all of that is now happening a lot within the banking sector. All of that is going to happen even more as the technology develops so that it can identify and analyze all of this data in the future. Coming to your second point on metaverse, is the banking sector looking into metaverse or not? I would say that the banking sector is not looking into metaverse or digitization or so on. Banking sector is following the customers. As and when customers move to a metaverse kind of an environment, when people are starting to buy these NFTs and so on, digital assets, they are going to make purchases in that environment. They're going to create an economy in that space. If that starts to happen, then you're again going to get a lot of data about users, how they are using their money, their cryptocurrencies and so on in the metaverse domain. There are going to be fraudsters there as well. So all the problems that are being solved in the digital economy will need to be solved in the metaverse as well. So the banking sector is kind of looking at it. If there are enough customers, people are already thinking and looking about how to provide these kind of solutions, AI-based solutions in the banking space as well. So wait
Like
and
providing loans to people in the metaverse to buy properties or supercars.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, good.
That would be really interesting to see.
Mhm.
So, in general, people started talking about AI very recently after the whole chat GPT hype. But I understand that your career started back in 1998. So, how have you seen technology evolve, specifically the AI?
Yeah, you make me feel really old, but my first project when I started my career in 98 was around building speech recognition systems. So, especially for Indian languages, that was in my previous organization. So, wherein we built a system wherein you can speak to the computer and the computer would type the text for you. The use cases that time there were, and I'm talking really like as an old person, that time there were not, mobile phones were not there, smartphones, forget about it, and so on. So it was mostly computer to whom you would want to talk, right? Our plan was that rather than having to type, people can speak to things, and therefore people such as lawyers, doctors who have to do a lot of documentation can do it faster and so on. Anyway, so that was the AI technology that time, and when I had worked on it, the system would work mostly only on my voice, and that to the specific sentences that I know it works. So every time I would give a demo on Hindi speech recognition system, I still remember those lines. I would go to a conference and then I would say, नमस्कार, हिंदी भाषा के प्रदर्शन में आपका स्वागत है, आज हम देख रहे हैं blah blah blah, something like that, and it would type and people would clap and so on. The unfortunate part was that it would never work on any other person's voice, at least as good as it would work on mine. This was way back in 98, 2000s, and so on. But now you see the number of queries that people do on Google, there are more voice queries than text queries in a lot of places. The way people interact with Alexas of the world and so on, the barrier to technology has gone down significantly, and speech recognition is now actually pervasive. It actually works.
Did AI experts back then expected this sort of advancement in AI by 2023?
Um, I would say they would have expected it much earlier, to be honest. Especially the ones who were like living and breathing AI at that time. They knew the potential, but a lot has changed between then and now. Definitely, there are smarter brains. More number of people started working on it, so more solutions started to come into play. The hardware also changed a lot. AI needs really large amount of hardware, so the hardware industry also was increasing its ability to do computations and so on. With digitization, the amount of data also increased, and AI needs data. So all the things started to come together very quickly, which is what led to this advancement. But back to your question, did people believe that time that things will happen the way they are happening? They definitely had the hope, because the example that I gave, that I could speak to it and the system could understand, we could realize that if this thing works for everyone, then it's going to change the name of the game. But in some sense, we were always constrained, because we would always say that it has huge potentials. So, when we go and do a pitch to a customer or internally within an organization, we'll have our PowerPoint presentations and so on. In that, we would have all these kind of stories that the world will change if we do this, world will change if we do that. Year one, we would present and we'll get some results. Year two, we'll again present some hope and then we'll get some results. But those results were not as convincing as the hope was. There was a huge gap. But to answer your question, I think the public, the business, um, did not believe as much, but the AI scientists definitely believed that things would change significantly.
The AI era we'll see in future, will it be good for us humans? I mean, whether it will be pro humans, or will it take away more from us in terms of job and creativity? Whether AI will be able to take over the world?
The way you are going to use the technology AI is going to decide whether it is going to be good for you or not good for you. It is a tool which some people will use for increasing their efficiency so that they can do much more than what they could do, and it is a tool which some people are going to use to become more lazy, because AI is doing everything, so let me not do anything, and those are the ones whose creativity will reduce and so on and so forth. So it depends on how we use it perhaps, but again, it's a very judicious call that people will have to make sure that they embrace it in the right manner.
Okay, fair enough. So, in one of your previous interviews, you said that the growth of AI is multidisciplinary and cannot be achieved only through engineering. So, tell us a little bit more about this and how different sectors are involved in the AI future.
Yeah, I am really impressed by the fact that you've done your homework well with respect to what we've discussed this in the past. Um, yeah, so see, one of the things that has come up in AI field is the whole issue of ethical AI and so on and so forth, right? We have also seen with all this chat GPT stuff coming in, there are issues with respect to copyright, as to if AI generates some music, then it has generated that music by listening to a lot of other music which existed on the web and so on. So now if it has generated a music, who owns the copyright for it? Because some of it has learned from other music pieces and so on, right? So we rightly see that definitely the legal authorities, the regulators are obviously involved in it. These are people who are lawyers, um, or maybe people who make rules in the government and so on and so forth, the legislatures and so on. They are getting involved into this because it affects the society from a legal perspective. So it's definitely not limited to engineering. Legal people are already in it. Let's talk about education. this is a sector that is anyway being challenged. The standard notion of education, wherein students used to go to school, they would read books and they would learn content, had been challenged a while when online education came into picture with Khan Academies of the world and so on, providing a lot of content. I had heard teachers come and say that students these days already have read all of that stuff through these videos and so on. So nothing is surprising and new to them. So then we have to teach in a very different manner to them and so on. There are people who are in the healthcare division. A lot of them now take help from AI based algorithms which can quickly parse, let's say, a scan, a CT scan, and so on, and they can quickly detect where are the problems and so on. So the doctors need not look at those, or radiologists do not need to look at all of those things. They can only look at the report that are being generated by AI agents and then make a decision basis that. All of the research, a lot of the research about generating drugs, creating new drugs, is now being handled a lot by AI because it can create a lot of different combinations and then permutations, and then it can figure out what works and what not works. So, no matter whether you talk about legislators, whether you talk about we talked about healthcare people, education people, think about sales people, right?
So we have many people talking, if not talking, they are listening about AI and here and there. So if there is someone who wants to understand the past, present, and future of AI, do you have any book or movie recommendation for that person?
Um, yeah, there is this nice book called Thinking Fast and Slow.
Okay.
It's actually a book on how our minds thinks sometimes in a fast manner. So one part of our brain works really fast, one part of the brain works really slow. The part of the brain that works fast is the one that AI uses and so on. So it's a good book for non-technology people also to actually see how the brain works, and then they can interpolate and then extrapolate and then figure out how AI works as well. Um, there's another book called as The Virtue of Randomness, which also talks about how, again, human decision making and so on, and how data is used and so on by humans. And then it's easy to then figure out how, once humans do it, then how machines do it and so on. I would recommend those two books as starters rather than going into the depth of coding and algorithmic side of AI, which not everyone may have a background on.
Okay, thanks for that recommendation. Since we are talking about mind, so if I'm not wrong, you also practice meditation, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you think? Will we have seen like many AI apps that help us for our meditation and all? What do you think? Can AI also help us with the mental health issues?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, and I'm definitely very impressed that you found out that I deal with meditation as well. See, the basics of you would have heard the term deep learning, right? In AI. Now, why is it called deep learning? The reason it is called deep learning is that there are things called as neural networks in AI, which are like small compute units which make small decisions, and a large number of small decisions make a bigger decision and all that. The reason it is called deep neural network is because there are large number of layers of these neural units in a neural network, right? So there are large number of them, one below the other and so on. That's why it becomes very deep. So that's called a deep neural network. Anyway, so that's what is being used in all these complex AI systems, right? Coming back to our brain is actually made up of these neurons. Okay. And two neurons are connected by something called as a synapse in biology. Okay. As we age, the number of synapses start to keep reducing. Okay. And eventually, as we age, our ability to do cognitive stuff also reduces. You can see that people above the age of 80, they have a hard time walking. It's not because they don't have less strength, but their coordination ability to send those signals to the brain reduces. And their ability to do specific things, let's say doing calligraphy and so on, reduces because you don't have that much amount of control and all that type of stuff, right? It's all brain stuff. It also results in significant things related to health issues related to dementia and so on, forgetful memory and all of that, right? What meditation does is that it actually it brings in more energy in your brain, and connects these synapses much more, and that's how you can improve your cognitive abilities and all of that type of stuff. So in some sense, the relationship between AI and brain is significantly high. And coming back to your question, can AI help in improving the mental health? Definitely it can help, because first thing it can do is it can identify any symptoms of those synapses breaking. The first mechanism to figure out that this person is moving to dementia is that their handwriting changes. Over a period of a few years, if the handwriting is changing and I have less and less control over my handwriting, it can be detected easily by AI system. 5 years down the line, it will lead to dementia, but much ahead of time, it can actually identify these things. People can, there are a lot of experiments wherein people wear electrodes in their brain, and it can see what part of the brain ignites when a particular thing happens. So, if there is a lot of anger that some person has, then the back of the brain ignites more as compared to the front of the brain. If someone is more creative, or while doing creative activities, the front of the brain ignites more. So there are all these brain scans that people have done and so on and so forth. So we can really actually identify what part of the brain has particular challenges, and then intervene and see that how to improve, using all different kinds of concepts that are used in different theories related to cognitive psychology and meditation and so on, to improve that part of the brain. So, good question, but there is a significant linkage between how brain works and how AI can be used to figure out what's happening inside.
This is actually all these theories, all these information which relates AI to human brain is really interesting for everyone to know. I was very curious to know how it's going to change, because I also tried one of the meditation apps, but I think I have to give it another try to see the difference.
Absolutely, yeah. It takes time, but yeah.
With any new technology, we see new emerging crimes. You all already spoke about it. So, specifically in the banking sector, how they are trying to deal with the new scams that we are seeing.
Yeah, you would have heard about all these fake videos and so on, right? Now you can see a video of a celebrity who never said anything, but it's there and all that type of stuff, right? From a banking perspective, it is threatening what is called as a digital identity. We would have used a lot of banking applications wherein we use biometrics to do our authentication, right? So rather than even on our phones these days, rather than me having to type a password, I actually put it in front of my face, it works. On some phones, you put your fingerprint and it works, and so on. So now imagine that if fraudsters are able to synthetically create the fingerprints or the face or other things, then they can easily get into such payment systems which were using biometrics, and they can misuse it for their own purposes. That's going to be a significant challenge in the banking industry for sure. The benefit that the industry has is that this technology is evolving frequently, and thankfully there's a large amount of data that the bank has about their customers as compared to, let's say, scamsters. Which means, let's say, if the scamsters figure out my fingerprint and they generate a fake fingerprint or my face and so on, but the bank also knows how I work with my mobile phone. So everyone has a very different, what we call as a digital signature. So I may hold my phone like this, you may hold your phone like that at this angle, someone may hold it at some other angle. I may type using just my thumb, someone will type using his fingers, and so on. These things can be detected and added on to your other biometrics so that we can be much more secure. You can add additional data about the fact that people are, let's say, if you make, someone makes a erroneous transaction from my bank account to a merchant to whom I have never transacted, Or maybe they saw that I had made a transaction right here in Delhi, but suddenly another transaction is happening in Bangalore. So most likely I cannot fly from Delhi to Bangalore in a matter of a few minutes. So that's why it's a spurious transaction. What banks will have to do to handle these kind of situations is to get more varied in the kind of data that they need to use and they can use. By more varied, I'm now saying that, as I said, you will get signals from a mobile phone, you will get signals from people's biometrics, you will get signals from their past transactions, you will get signals from blah blah and so on. So now you have huge amounts of data, and as soon as you have huge amounts of data, you need to have really sophisticated AI algorithms which can actually parse all of this data and then differentiate the good from the bad. So that's where the banking industry needs to go. The other thing is also that,
So it seems like the sectors in the coming future will see technological advancement. So what skill set should young people inculcate to have a good career, since many young people will be watching this video?
yeah, one good comment that I got from a different panel, which is not my comment, but I really liked it, was the fact that if you work as a machine, then the machine will take your job.
Okay.
Obvious, right? So if you are working in a very robotic fashion in your work or in your life, then most likely it is hard to survive because the technology will take, can actually replicate what you are doing. And that is why, as young people, things that we never considered are going to be important are going to be really important in the future. Things related to collaboration, things related to empathy, things related to mentorship, things related to identifying opportunities, things related to creativity. All these things are not some things that machine will start collaborating with each other and so on and so forth, right? So these human things that are usually useful in a career when people grow and they start working with teams and so on and so forth, those are the things that, those soft skills are going to become really really important. That doesn't mean that people don't need to have technical skills and so on, but that's no longer going to be a differentiator, because technical skills, machines will be able to take over them. So perhaps that's what something that people should go back and learn and be more guided by those principles.
Okay. This was a really interesting conversation, and this is the end. So, thank you so much, Nitendra, for doing this with us, for giving us your time. Do you have any last message for our viewers?
Yeah, I think we touched upon it, but I think it's really important to embrace AI, irrespective of who you are, whether you are in the technology field, whether you are in the marketing field, or any field of your life, because it is going to become pervasive, or it's already getting pervasive like electricity. Now, every one of us uses electricity, but some of us may get shocked by it if we don't use it in the correct manner. But some of us may actually use it for a lot of, we do use it for all kinds of purposes to improve our efficiency. So the reason why everyone needs to know of it is that we do not want us ourselves to be shocked. We need to know that that electricity flows inside a wire, and then if you touch it barefoot without wearing your slippers, then it really shocks you. Similarly, we need to know at least enough about AI so that we know the pitfalls of it and we know how to use it rather than get into the pitfalls of it. That does not mean that I need to know the algorithms, the code, and all that type of stuff. People start to get into all those taking AI courses and all of that type of stuff, which is not the right thing. In some sense, thankfully, if you search on Google AI for marketeers, you'll have some videos. If you search on Google AI for business leaders, you'll find something. If you search on AI for software engineers, you'll find something. If you search for AI for legal folks, you'll find something. So people have had enough high level material which will tell you from at your point of view what is AI, and it is all different to different people, but it's important for me to figure out what is AI for myself, and then at least be aware at that level is what I would want to recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Makes sense. So, thank you so much, Nitendra.
Welcome and thanks a lot for the wonderful questions. It was a great conversation.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.